Hey guys, welcome to Lemonade, the podcast. Today's episode is with a man called Caleb Watson, who is from Missouri, America, and he has quite a fascinating story and one I was really excited to bring forward for you guys to hear. I hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you again in a fortnight. Thank you. Okay, hi guys. Today's guest we have Caleb, all the way from Missouri in America. Kayla, I actually came across via Instagram. So I was in my For You page, and it was actually a funny video that your wife had popped up of you pumping gas at the petrol station, which is getting a bit of traction online at the moment. So then naturally I've clicked on you to see who you were, what the story was. And in your bio on Instagram, Caleb, it mentions that you're a two-time cancer survivor. And I think anyone that's lived through cancer knows that it takes you to a very deep and journeyful place within yourself and your mindset. So I knew that you would have a fantastic story on your own journey and what you've been through in life to get to where you are today. So I reached out to you and asked if we could do a podcast, and here we are. So, Caleb, tell us a bit about yourself, and also how old were you when you first learned that you had cancer?
So my name's Caleb. I'm originally from Florida. Um, I had left and joined the military shortly after high school and did my time overseas. When I'd come back, it's about the time I met my wife. Um, I would say the largest part after the military, I kind of felt a little off, like something was a little different, which of course you go through all the mental and alcohol, all the typical things that I'd say most veterans do, but something else was a little off. We had my son, he's 5 now, and in 2021, I knew that something was definitely not right. I was falling asleep a lot, like in traffic or at work. I built weak, tired, didn't really have any drive. And I went to the doctors, and that's when they originally found it. I had like 30 something lymph nodes that were infected in my stomach, and then one massive one on my aorta artery. And that was in 2021. So my mom or my wife, stay at home mom, and I continued working. And the first time I went through chemo and started all that, I lost about 40 pounds. So I was still building power lines in the state of Florida at this time. And we did the whole deal with the port and lost the weight. And I'd say mentally that kind of took a bit of a toll. When you fast forward, we got into remission. That's when we actually moved to Missouri. And the second time actually happened in 2023. So I just finished my treatment last year in February. So now I'm a year and a month back into remission, which is about the same time I got re-diagnosed the first time. But yeah, so it's been definitely an up and down road. I never got into social media. I've actually never had social media until about helping people, and majority of people end up working their lives away to hopefully retire. And I would say having cancer twice, I wanted to have a little bit of that retirement now, if that makes sense. I mean, of course, everything I can do to make sure my family's taken care of, but I wanted to buy back some of my time. And working through chemo, it just kind of put a bitter taste in my mouth as far as what our system is like here. And, they offer services is really hard. So I raise a lot of awareness for that. In any illness or sickness, I'm always involved in different fundraisers and stuff to try and get people to at least have their first few months paid for their bills and everything like that. That way they can kind of take the stress off and actually rest during it. The biggest part of it is trying to mitigate the hazard and work through certain things. I know my wife she's had to deal with quite a bit on her end, just as far as watching me at some of my weakest points. And mind you, I was heavily drinking majority of my adulthood. So Even after cancer the first time, I celebrated by going and getting drunk, and I continued that same path for a good time, and then I just finally put everything down, went completely sober, and have just been really dialing in on what I feel like I'm supposed to be as a man and a husband and a father, and some of the things that I never had at that time. And I think that the having the cancer really put things into perspective for me, because it made me second guess a lot of decisions I've made. And then, accompanying that with being sober, I kind of had to relearn myself in my 30s. So I didn't really know how I reacted to certain things or emotions maybe I had bottled up. And what I realized is that I have this presence online to where, the tattoos, I'm in decent shape, I speak on certain things that really resonate with people, but I also explain like vulnerability and downfalls as a man and things that you should reflect on. And I feel like there's a market for it, not in the sense of a get rich quick scheme, but in a way that you can give more men confidence in feeling those emotions. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's what everyone's scared of, is to think that they're, lesser than or something in that nature. And is just making it to where he'll never express his emotions, he'll never cry and he'll never feel, and it'll just be a constant, revolving door of misery. And I'm hoping that I can help with that in some way. So that's where the social media and all this stuff kind of come from.
Yeah, amazing. And can I ask, when you say, like, I have a few questions actually. The turning point for stepping away from the alcohol, what allowed you to come to that realization that you didn't feel like it had a space in your life anymore?
I got tired of hating myself. I felt like I was in a position where, I had to hide a lot of stuff, and it got to a point where when I would drink, I would wake up and I would feel anxiety, like I did something wrong. And I had always wanted to quit, but it was always for like other reasons.
Yeah.
And then this time I just did it without letting anyone know. I just became kind of the loser at the party, right? And then that led to me just not going to the parties. But
Yeah.
never went out a whole lot. I was always drinking by myself, which was also kind of scary. And I worked really hard on my fitness during that too, and then you go drink and you go do all this stuff and you're like, man, it's kind of counterproductive. So I would say the majority of it was, which I'm sure there'd be all kinds of people that'll give me slack for this, which is fine. I don't really need those kind of people following me, but my relationship with God got a lot better in the sense of I gave up the control I thought I had, and I stopped acting like I beat cancer, and I stopped acting like I beat it again, and I just more so gave that up to God, and wanted him to direct me and take away some of this ill feelings that I have. And whether people believe in that kind of thing or not, I do think there's power in even just saying some of those things out loud. Like if you can look at yourself in the mirror and pick things apart that you don't like about yourself, and you can say them out loud, because there's a difference between thinking them and saying them. And if you can say them out loud, I do feel like there's a lot of power in that. And that's probably one of the first steps towards changing or progressing, is by just admitting that you're not all that, and allowing yourself to be humbled. So
Yeah.
I would say that that's probably the biggest thing about sobriety, was not trying to be the cool kid anymore,
Yeah.
and just accepting myself for all the flaws that I may have.
Yeah. Amazing. I in 2023 I actually challenged myself to a year sober, and I did it. And it I say to anyone that asks me about it, like, I think everyone should do it, because you learn so much about yourself being in so many different situations where you
Oh
do
yeah.
have a drink to sort of, calm your nerves or give you a bit of extra confidence. Um, and I then decided to drink again in 2024, and then 2025 I was on the fence about where I was going to go with it. And I actually find at the moment I'm almost at a fork in the road with my opinion on alcohol. Like, I really don't want it. I don't like it and I don't want it in my life. But then I find, especially, I'm not sure if it's like this in America, but in Australia, there's a really strong culture around to have fun. It's just assumed that alcohol's going to be involved.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I guess in a way it does. And
Oh yeah. No, that's America.
okay. And I'm curious if back home as well, you find that when you decided to quit alcohol, did you find that you really reevaluated the people you were hanging out with or your friend circle?
I think more so they reevaluated me. Um, a lot of the friends that I've had like really traumatic experiences with, and the thing about that is when you do something traumatic with somebody, whether it be your upbringing or war or anything, and you accompany that with alcohol, then really the only thing that ties you guys together is war and alcohol. And when you get the war out of your system or you get the alcohol out of your system, you really don't want the other because they complement each other so well.
Mm,
So, thankfully for me, one of my closest friends, he actually became sober as well, which is a big help. And we had a bit of a falling out during that time too, just because that's all we've known. I used to be a pretty rowdy dude back in the day, so we would just, man, we'd fight over nothing and drink for days. And once you don't do that, it's like, well, what do you do? you know,
yeah.
when Friday night no longer turns into Sunday morning, like, what do you do?
Mm,
And I just realized that I do this. I just, I roam around on our little property and I find stuff to do, but you definitely you lose your friends. And then at the same token with that, the people that were even your acquaintances will no longer want to be in your life. And you've got to be okay with that and accept that. A lot of people don't want to be alone. But the thing is that you're just going to have a different set of friends. There's other people that are going to introduce themselves in your life, and you're going to be trading out some of this infection, right? And then you'll realize, well, that person was never really there for me. But when you lose one on the fence friend, you normally gain two decent people in your life that are in your corner. So it's definitely always a part of a plan, and you just got to bear with it.
yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And with your cancer journey and from finding out the first time and then like finding out the second time, did your approach to cancer the second time change at all?
That's actually a really good question. I don't think it changed very much. I never gave myself time to even cope with that unless it was in my truck by myself. I was never the type of guy that expressed that I was in any sort of immediate danger or felt threatened by something. And that was more to preserve the sanity of like my wife and my kids. Like my kids, they won't ever remember a time that Caleb broke. You know what I mean? So, and I've made sure that they seen me still going to work and doing what I was supposed to do. They didn't see the bad parts of it. I tried to put on a pretty good mask for them. And then the second time, to be honest with you, I kind of just seen it more of the more I had it, and I was getting blood clots, and I've got things going on in my brain. Like there's so many things that continue after chemo. And this second time when I was in remission, I didn't even really pay attention to it. I was just like, okay, well, now what, Because I know it comes with so much stuff that I'm still dealing with certain infusions. I'm still getting checked in on all the time. I'm still getting a lot of blood. I'm still having a lot of tests ran. So for me, I'd say if I were to get it a third time, I would handle it probably better than the other two just because of my faith and where I'm at in my life with my physical abilities. I'm mentally in a much better place. Before I just felt like I was going through the motions and I didn't really care what happened, right? So
Yeah.
it was just one of those things where it's like, oh well, if I die, my family gets a lot of money. So now it's like I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's the mind's a crazy thing.
Yeah. And when you say that was sort of your approach the first time, is that because like the partying and the alcohol was still a part of your life and you hadn't sort of had a mindset shift? Is that why you had that attitude with it?
No, um, I couldn't really party because I was spent a lot of time trying to find what beer I could stomach, but I definitely wasn't able to party. I was at that time I was yellow, my liver was failing, and I was like, um, I was in a pretty rough physical patch there for a bit. I would just say that I had so much other stuff that I had been through that had kind of altered my mind in a negative way to where when I got bad news like that, I just assumed I deserved it and it was just whatever. It was more of like a speed bump, you know. I was just like, "Oh shit, here we go," you know. Like, what? And then the more bad news I'd get, I'd be like, "I probably deserve that," you know. I never would have thought it would have turned around to be in the position I'm in, and I get to speak to a lot of people that are going through these issues, and like people reach out to me before getting diagnosed, or I would have never thought that it would turn into that, you know. So that's pretty cool, but
Yeah.
at that point in my life, I wasn't emotionally available for a lot of things.
Yeah, wow. When I was scrolling through your Instagram account, there was one of the videos that I came across, and I'm just trying to find, here we go. You say in this clip, I'm not the smartest person in the room, nor would I claim to be, but it's important to have a conversation with everyone in that room and make sure you aren't underplaying your role. Sometimes you have to be that leader and you've got to carry the torch and you've got to be willing to do that. And when I played that
Hmm.
clip, I had a real, like, I guess, light bulb moment, or it was really profound, I would say, when I played that and I was watching it and I was like, wow. And oh, I, it blew me away a little bit because it takes a lot of self reflection, Caleb, to be able to acknowledge that sometimes you do have to be a leader in a situation because everyone there is less capable of whatever is required at the time.
Hmm.
But for you to acknowledge that, it was really, yeah, I was really impressed with. So I'm just, I guess, curious what allowed you to get to a stage where you can acknowledge that. Like you said, you've come from military and partying and being a bit of a like getting up to mischief to now be able to acknowledge that in
Yeah,
some situations you need to lead. Um, what got you there?
I would say that I've always been a leader in the sense of I have in a room full of people. Typically, I'm followed by some, right? Like I have a certain presence where people trust and believe me and want to be a part of whatever I have going on. But I think the part that got me to that is being surrounded by people that may be capable, but how they express their leadership is toxic. And I don't have to stand idly by and let it happen, right? So, for instance, you know, in a work environment, you can be really good at your job, and because somebody has been there longer than you or done the job better than or longer than you doesn't mean that they're more intelligent than you on a certain situation. You know, they could have done the job for 20 years and you may only have 5, but if you've done the same part of that job 20 times more than them, then you have the most experience in that one particular thing. And when you have that kind of confidence behind you and you believe that, then I don't think you should just wait around for somebody to make the move. Because the truth is, people are intimidated by elders or by other people, right? And they're scared to fail and what someone's going to say. And I felt like I needed to say that to, you know, Instagram or whatever, because I've been caught being that person where I just didn't want to cause the conflict anymore. So I just let it happen, and you kind of watch something take place. You know, the only worst thing than going into an ambush is knowing that you're going into an ambush. So when you have that knowledge and you know that that's going to happen and you still walk into it, well, now that's your fault, you know. And if you're not able to warn somebody about the ambush that you know of, then I think you're failing in a lot of ways. And I just want people to have the confidence to speak up a little bit and believe that, you know, you can wake up two different ways in the morning. You can wake up and tell yourself that you're a piece of shit and you suck, right? or you can wake up and say that, you're less of a piece of shit than you were yesterday, and you suck less than you did this morning, and things are getting better. And that small little change is going to set you up for success for tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And eventually you'll stop saying any of that about yourself. And it all starts with just the small little words of affirmation built up over time, where you gain some of that confidence that somebody has wrongly taken from you at some point in your life.
Yeah, amazing. Have you ever considered doing men's groups back home? I think you'd be fantastic at it.
So I kind of do. I get phone calls all the time, and I'm always talking with people about anything. And that's actually the cool thing too with me doing the programming is it goes so much deeper than fitness. And that's part of the reason why I started doing the physical fitness training and the online coaching and life coaching, is because it's very easy to get somebody to want to change physically, right? Because everybody can agree that we can be in better shape, we can be stronger, we can be a little healthier. So that's like the opening door. What's really cool is when you get them to go through the door, and then we start chiseling away at these other things that they have, like goals that they haven't spoke about out loud, or relationship issues, or underplaying their own emotions, and you have to explain to them that. And now you don't only have somebody that's physically better, but mentally they're more prepared. And that's a very, very cool and humbling thing to be a part of, is to watch the full package of growth take place.
100%. Yeah. And I think as well, physically they'd be more inclined to stay in shape if their mental headspace is in a great place for it. When you mentioned the coaching, whilst we're there, I'm gonna ask you about, isn't that your little dude? I'm gonna ask you about the plans or how people can
Yeah.
how people can reach out to you. So your Instagram is Caleb, what is it? Is it Caleb underscore
Watt, W-A-T, yes, ma'am.
WAT? Yep, just so people can find you and then send you a message. I'll put it in the link below on the podcast anyway. And then they can reach out to you
Yeah, cool.
to have programs done or even discuss, yeah, if they're on a similar journey to you. And so another thing, I suppose, and what you've been discussing so far, which is very much mindset and headspace, but I was pondering on everything you've been through, and it would have been like it's easy for you and for other people to go through what you've been through and slot into that poor me mindset, like we sort of mentioned earlier. Um, and was there a moment, or did you start on the path of poor me and did you pull yourself up on it, or how did you not go into that headspace of why me or poor me or
I never once thought poor me at all. And it wasn't because of being a tough guy or anything like that. I genuinely always thought that anything bad happened to me was supposed to happen. What's up, buddy? Oh, nice. Cool. I'll be inside in a minute, okay? Um, I just always thought that I deserved it. So for me, it was like, okay, now what? So I said this to someone the other day, and when I said it, I was like, dang, man, that makes a lot of sense. I just would spend like a majority of my life, you know, walking out into a storm, leaving a perfectly good home, right? And then complain about getting wet and being caught in a storm. And I was inadvertently looking for something wrong to happen. I was looking for something that would hinder my day, or would put me in a bad spot. I was always looking for the bad thing to happen. And then sure as shit, man, I always found it.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that I was looking for cancer and found it, but I mean, you can use that also. You can have a couple different ways of going into something. And for me, I've just always been so acceptant of bad stuff that I never realized all the good stuff either. I was hyper focused on the bad stuff, and I was like, okay, well, we'll just go on about our business. It's another day, and nothing changed in my life. And I also invite people too, when you talk about the poor me, it's there's a saying that says the idle hands are the devil's work. And it's super important that you physically may not be able to do a lot of the stuff that you enjoy or you like to do, but make sure you do some of it. Because the moment you stop, that's whenever things are going to get really bad. And I just never stopped. So I may have had my issues with alcohol and I may have had these other problems, but mentally I always knew that I needed to keep progressively moving. I just didn't really know what I was moving towards.
And how long have you been sober for now, Caleb?
I've been sober for about a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah, wow. And does your wife still drink alcohol?
She never really drank that much to begin with. She does with her friends every now and again.
Yeah.
But she was never a big drinker.
And in the sober decision, do you feel like your children played a role in you wanting to step away from that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had this crazy I'm a very deep thinker. I think about some wild stuff. And so I'm well versed in a lot of different hand-to-hand combat and pistols and rifles and all kinds of stuff. I've been training for a very long time. And I was thinking, I ran up a wreck and thank God nobody died or anything like that. And it was the one time that I was sober, it was on a weekend. And I was thinking, like, I've got tourniquets all in my truck. I've got full med kits, and I've never tried to use any of them while I was intoxicated. And I don't think I would do very good at it. So for me, it was almost like, man, what if someone broke into the house? Could I perform? Or something happened to my kid? Could I effectively use a tourniquet? Could I get them into a safe spot? Could I stop the bleeding? And it's actually a kind of a cool little nonprofit I'm going to start up. That's going to be, who stops the bleeding, and it's going to be for fathers that uh, maybe don't understand the importance of their role. Um, and that was the big part of it. Besides, like my little one, when he was 3, I'd go into the garage and work on a car, and he'd immediately go get me a beer, and I was like, God, man, like that's crazy. So, it's like I don't, and I come from a long line of alcoholics. Everybody drinks, so it's like, man, I don't want to set him up for failure either. And if I make it so okay to drink, which he may try it and do it. I'm not going to tell him to never do it. I don't want him to find out how crummy it is the same way I did.
Yeah.
Because I do think you can drink. I think people can do that. I just know that I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And your not for profit that you're starting, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's really going to be more of like a safe place for men, and I don't know if it'll go about an official nonprofit. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it's definitely going to be started as a group, and I just want dads to be able to support each other. I want it to be a safe place, and it may even be through the fitness app. I don't really know. I just know that I get together with a lot of people and I speak with a lot of people, and I think the one thing that a majority of men miss out on is community. And I feel like as a man, your one job is to be the most miserable person in the room, right? Like you should make your wife should be outstandingly happy because she makes everyone else happy. Your kids shouldn't feel your pain. And then you're supposed to mitigate the hazard and control the chaos of your own life and know what to do with it. That's what your job is as a man. You're supposed to take the brunt of all that so they're not hurting as bad. And I think it's important to know that role, recognize that role, and then effectively operate in that role. But people don't look at it, and it can go even past alcohol. I mean, the stuff you're putting in your body. Uh, Somebody said the other day about they can pull down 300 pounds, but they couldn't pull up their body weight, which was 220.
Yeah,
It's like,
wow.
so can you pull your son up? Eh,
Mm.
I do something with my family where I'll put everybody on my back one at a time and I'll see how many pull-ups I can do. Well, it's it may be a funny little video or something, but I know for a fact that there's not a person in my household that I couldn't bring up on a ledge. you know,
Yeah.
like there's an effective training method that's involved, and it may be dumb, but if I can shoulder press my wife, then I know that she's strong enough to grab the kids when I bring them up. So it may be maybe a weird way to look at it, but as a man, you should be able to perform.
Mm. When you were talking on that earlier as well, Caleb, you mentioned that your children will never see you break, like your children will never see you crumble in front of them, which is very admirable. But it also makes me think that's a heavy weight to carry on your shoulders, on like everything that you've been through with your cancer journey, and to feel like you have to always be stoic. Is there someone in your life that you get to crumble to in your moments where you don't feel strong? Or yeah, is there someone you turn to?
For the longest time there wasn't, and this is probably the most important bit of information that can be said because I don't have to carry all of it. But that's where your faith comes in. And whether you believe in a unicorn, a UFO, whatever that thing is, it's the same affirmations that you say out loud. If you rely and you truly believe that someone is there, something is there to help you and guide you, it's very hard to lose. And your faith is what you can put that on, right? And I'm not a church goer. I'm not a guy that's like a Bible thumper or anything. I curse, I swear, I do things I'm not supposed to do. But what I will say is my life got exceptionally better the moment I unloaded some of that weight. And now the one thing that piggybacks off of that is surrounding yourself by good men, right? If you're a man, surrounding yourself by high quality men. And finding those really isn't as hard as you would think. Typically, they're all in a fitness community. They're all like minded, right? So you got that going for you. But finding genuine people and holding on to them, making the phone call. Most of the time, people don't know that they have those good people just because they stopped calling them.
Mm.
Check in on those people. That helps tremendously.
And fitness for you, Caleb, was it a part of your life when you were in the military world? Like, were you still extremely fit, or has it sort of increased since you've, I guess, recognized the value of your health and been through what you've been through?
Oh no, I've been a competitor my whole life. I've always played sports. I've been a mixed martial artist for over 20 years. I fought competitively. I still compete in jiu-jitsu. Um, I have a strongman competition in like 3 weeks. I've never done that before, but I'm going to be there doing lifting logs or whatever. Um, I have always been a person that valued physical fitness and the ability to like uphold and then surpass a standard. I've always been really, really well versed and intrigued by that. I would say that I've taken it kind of to another level, more so with my diet
Mhm.
and like what foods I consume and me cleaning that up. But I've always been a very, uh, very active competitor for sure.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And with your diet and having, like, since being in, how long have you been in remission from when you had cancer the second time?
A year and a month.
Okay, amazing. And your diet, when you say that you have fine-tuned your diet a lot more, like fitness has always been there, but the diet's been fine-tuned, is that just from a health aspect, or is it also food? Like, have you looked into anti-cancerous foods or things? Have you gone down that path?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I look at, I look at. Now I don't implement every one of them because there's certain things that they tell you about in the cancer communities about sugar and all that stuff. But your body breaks everything down to glucose, so it's kind of the same argument like good and bad fats. Obviously, you should get your fats from a positive source, avocados and nuts and things like that. But as far as tracking your macros and keeping a low fat diet, implementing like cold plunges is a really big deal for brown fats and cancer. And fasting is a massive benefit when you talk about any illness. I mean, even if you sprain your ankle, if you were to fast, like the healing properties automatically start. So there's a lot of things, also like, the stuff that everybody doesn't want to talk about, but I will, ivermectin, fenbendazole. There's multiple different studies done on that. And it's been proven to show outstanding results on all different platforms of research. Not that I would ever condone that. You're your own person, but it hasn't hurt me. So you
Yeah.
know, uh, there's a lot. Big pharma. I don't know how it is over there, but in America, it's almost like a really shitty membership. I really do think that there. You just can't tell me that we're so educated and all this stuff, and the one thing that's always been around, we just have no idea how to fix it. It's like, no, the truth of the matter is it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry and they don't care about me at all. It's what it is. So, you got to look out for yourself. All I know is if a dog gets cancer, they give them morphine, bendazole, and ivermectin. So, yeah, outside of tumor growth, which they'll cut that out. But I mean, when you talk about different chemotherapies and treatments, I find it hard to believe.
Oh, Caleb, I thought you were a really cool person before, but you've just like skyrocketed in my books because I have witnessed a lot of cancer in my family, and I lost my stepdad to a form of cancer. And everything that you just said, like I was 23 at the time when that happened, and witnessing the doctors put him on medication and then another medication to counteract the side effects of the first medication. And that went on to the point, I think he was on 16 tablets a day. Um, and it was really eye-opening. And I, hands down, and again, it's a spicy, controversial comment, but I hands down believe there is a cure
Oh
for
yeah,
cancer. But a cure for cancer,
without a doubt.
yeah, a cure for cancer doesn't make money, and big pharma at the
Uh,
end of the day is a business model. So,
so say take all right, so take the big elephant out of the room, right? Let's not even talk about cancer. Let's talk about something simple like hormones.
mhm,
Okay. So as a man, things happen in your life and you need to be on hormone replacement therapy, right? You should be on testosterone to where you feel at your best. You're looking at a scale between the ages of 18 and like 75. And then that same scale tells you between 300 and 900. So if you're 18 and you're at a 300, you're in the scale. And if you're 70 and you're at a 300, you're in the scale. The difference is on that whole deal is we're looking at 52 years of things that have happened.
yeah,
So, but if I say had an idea of transitioning, which is madly accepted, I would get all the hormones I could ever need.
mm,
You would take a healthy hormone panel and alter it completely
mm,
before you would give more of a hormone that the person already has.
yeah,
That's insane. That's
I
crazy.
agree.
That's the
100%.
craziest shit. The only thing crazier than that is putting litter boxes inside of a bathroom. That's, I mean, you know, it's a weird world we live in, man. It is strange.
This conversation, Caleb, has shown me we are completely on the same wavelength of how we think because, yeah, I have a lot to say on those topics of kitty litter boxes in
Oh yeah.
classrooms and, yeah.
Yeah. So I did a video, right, of and it was like on my story. It was just to get people, I don't know, engaged or whatever. And I started by drinking my pre-workout all messed up. Like I had the water, I put the scoop in there instead of mixing it, and I just drank it. And then at the end of it, I was like, we never went to the moon. And I cut the camera off set about the fucking moon landing. I'm like, Dude, we've been talking for what, 45 minutes now, and we've dropped the call twice, okay? So I just we're not even that far apart, really. When you talk about how far it is to the moon.
Thank you.
I don't know, man. The more I talk to people, I'm like, Jesus. People don't believe in God, but they believe some crazy shit, man.
Yeah. Oh, this is a whole other, it's a big topic within itself. It could be an entire podcast alone. Um, yeah.
Uh,
Do you ever say that, like, obviously you did in the video and just dropped it as like a bomb to sort of see how it lands.
mm,
Um, will you willingly say that to someone in conversation to their face? Like, does it phase you to have those conversations?
100%.
Yeah.
No. Look, the one reason, so I've had social media for like 4.5 months now, and I've been growing really quickly.
Yeah.
And it's just because I'm organically myself. The things that I say are conversations I have with myself. I have topics that I go through, and I will talk to myself in my truck for 10 minutes, like just of things that spoke out to me that day, or things that's just been on my mind, and I'll just talk about it. And that goes for anything. I mean, I am an open book, whatever I think. And the deal is too, like the one time I talked about God on a video, I lost like 100 followers.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
next day I gained like 110.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like everything's always gonna work out, man. And I don't really give a shit if you want to follow me or not.
Yeah.
It means nothing to me. The people that need to hear what I have to say will follow me. The people that want to hear that will follow me.
Yeah.
If you don't align with my views, I could care less. They're mine.
Yeah.
Go follow somebody that's into that thing. I'm not. And if you look at my profile, you probably would guess that I'm not into a lot of those weird things, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm not saying be judgmental, but I look a certain way, dress a certain way, and act a certain way. You probably are right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? If it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck. I mean, don't be surprised when I tell you some shit that might be offensive.
I think that's a great thing though, because yeah, so many people in life, I believe, try to fit in or try to fit the mold and never actually find who they are. And I think when you have the courage
Mm-mm.
to be yourself, you find your tribe because of that, because the right people gravitate towards you.
So this is my little company here, Reformed Rejects, and
Yeah.
on the back of it is a whole bunch of black sheep sitting at a table.
Oh, I love that.
So
That's so good.
my idea is I've always been a loser. And instead of trying to be, if you got a room full of 10 people and there's one cool guy in there, right? Simple math says that guy's actually a loser and the other nine are the cool guys because you've outnumbered that person. So as long as I stick around finding the losers that align with me, then I'll forever be the cool guy. It's super simple. I don't have to have the world like me, man. I just need my small part, and I'm not going to be able to change the world, but the little section that I'm a part of, I can definitely influence for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think you've got a great message. I love what you put out online. It's, yeah, incredible. I'm going to shamelessly plug you. Where can people purchase your t-shirt?
So the t-shirts aren't out for the general public yet. I'm making some for my clients.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to set up like a cool little care package for people that sign on with me. It's been kind of a slow process, really, because I don't know what I'm doing. I know a lot about fitness, but technology is not that's not my thing.
Yeah.
So I'm learning, but soon it'll be, and also finding the right material. And I want stuff to be quality, and you know, you could go through thousands and thousands of dollars just trying to find something that's nice.
Yeah.
And I'm in Podunk, Missouri, so it's not like we've got a whole bunch of options over here.
Okay. Yeah. Fair call. the last thing I will say before I thank you for your time and let you go, when you were mentioning the ice baths, have you heard? Because I recently discovered I'm a massive fan
Mm.
of saunas, but I've recently learnt that if you actually,
Uh-huh. Love them.
yeah, if you get your body temperature, like your personal body temperature above 40 degrees when in a sauna or in something that's heating you up, did you know that that actually kills the cancer cells?
So when they say cancer cells, it's referring to brown fats.
Okay.
Brown fats hold it's almost what feeds that. And I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody that watches this will be like, oh, that's not what it is, whatever. Um, it's brown fats, and you're manipulating the brown fats. And the only way that you can manipulate them is through extreme temperatures, one way or the other. So that's why they say it's good to implement hot and cold therapy. So with hot therapy, it's obviously a lot easier to do that than it is getting a cold plunge or whatever. But it doesn't even have to be an ice bath. You just have to be uncomfortable. And you only got to do like 11 minutes a week.
Yeah, wow.
So that's what they mean is freezing off the brown fats. That's what activates them is extreme temperatures.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Amazing. On your Instagram, I haven't had a look enough to see, but do you talk about what you've learned? Like just then when you were mentioning the brown fats, you obviously have looked into or you know things about cancer and what it does. And do you talk it in your stories or anything? Is there a clip on your page where people can view the information you have on cancer?
So far, I will speak directly with people that are having some of those issues or but you got to be really careful when you talk about spreading the truth. And it's not like I'm worried about, the worst case scenario, but also, I don't know those people. I can't really ask them to see their blood work. There's certain things, even certain diets. I mean, I could recommend something and it could be detrimental to your health. I I would feel bad for someone just to follow what I'm saying without doing their own research.
Yeah.
So when I have an actual conversation with someone, I can kind of feel that out a little bit and be like, okay, like you've looked into some things. Too many people are like, well, what's the cure? It's like, brother, I would be a billionaire if I knew the cure. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I could sell it cheaper than aspirin and be one of the richest men in the world.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell because also, are you doing everything else? I mean, it's a proven fact. I will talk about factual things. You lower your body fat percentage and you increase your muscle mass, then your chances of getting cancer just diminished. If you quit alcohol for a woman, your chances of getting cancer went down by like 20%. If you quit it as a man, then your estrogen, which is also kind of a leading deal when you talk about cancer, is going to go down 15%. If you've already had cancer, it's 33% reoccurrence rate if you start drinking. These are all things that are factual, and and that's what makes it a wise decision. The other thing is too simple, just comparing things. The only animal in the world that can't get cancer is a shark, and it's because they never stop moving. So, in turn, the more active you are, you're probably looking at a higher chance of not getting cancer.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, fascinating. Well, Caleb, I'm going to thank you so, so much for your time. I'm really grateful that you said yes to doing the episode and jumping on. It has been, yeah, fascinating talking to you and amazing. So thank you so much for giving me your time. I will pop in the podcast link where everyone can find you. And yeah, I'll put a story up and link it all. But thanks. What is there anything you would like to say before I let you go?
No, I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. This is actually the first podcast that I've even been asked to be on, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. And it's following up. I'll be on quite a few of them this year over in California and another one I think in Utah. So I'll fly to those because I've got some other events. But really, really humbling and awesome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about it, and I think you did an awesome job. So it was a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to press stop and then I'll speak to you. Thanks for joining us for today's episode, guys, on Lemonade Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. Because I'm new and this channel's new, it would be amazing if you could subscribe or share it with your friends and family, and also in the comments on both Instagram and Spotify and YouTube. Let me know what you think of the episodes. Tell me what you would love to hear more of, just people you'd like me to interview, any ways in which you think Lemonade Podcast could grow. Would love to hear your feedback. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in a fortnight.